This is Starfield. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. And yes, the long-awaited review has finally arrived. It was a little disappointing not to be able to check this one ahead of launch, but I am happy to finally be showcasing the game and chatting about it here on the platform. So what are we getting here? It is like a 1440p temporal upscaled to 4K resolution game. So it's using FSR, which is the AMD fidelity. So that basically means it is using a resolution upscaling technique in order to achieve a higher quality experience. It is 30 FPS, and yes, there are drops. There are performance issues where it tanks quite a bit past that. But you know what? I think for the experience and the scope of it and what you get to see and what you do, that's not really the biggest deal at the end of the day here. I have had many questions in regards to whether or not a 60 FPS mode could be possible. I think maybe a 40 FPS mode if we're lucky at some point, but I just don't see that this console is really capable of delivering a 60 FPS experience smoothly in most situations, because this game just really is that demanding, that expansive, and that's crazy. It's just something I thought I would kind of mention. Maybe if you really sacrifice resolution and whatnot, something like that might be possible. But since it was something that came up so much, I did want to kind of address it and give my thoughts in that regard. But yeah, 30 FPS with drops, and then I think a 40 FPS mode would be kind of a cool achievable thing to have in this one. Actually, I think it'd be quite nice. HDR support. And yeah, this is a single player experience. It is the first new universe in over 25 years from Bethesda Game Studios. Obviously those that brought us the legendary experiences of Fallout and the Elder Scrolls. And yeah, this one lives up to the experience of those in some really interesting and exciting ways, while also doing some new, unique things with that formula. And as with all Bethesda games that are, from this mighty studio, they're role-playing experiences where you're able to create your character, chat with individuals, and explore an expansive universe in what is really one of the most fascinating and creative experiences I've ever had in a video game. It really is genuinely that incredible, that surprising, and that filled with things to do. Now, there are some elements that maybe make this a near-perfect experience, because there are some problems, performance, and the checkpoint system could definitely be better, and I've had a common quantity of crashes, I would say, over the scope of the time that I've played this game. But at the same time, it's things like that that you kind of overlook as you continue to play the experience and have really what is just such a wondrous time. But yeah, there are some other problems that persist across your experience. Levels of, say tediousness in regards to, like, going from planet to space loading, and then space to another place loading, and then space to that place, another loading, and then onto the planet loading. So there's a lot of loading that pops up, but it's quick, it's brief, and you know what, it really doesn't impact the experience, in my opinion, in any sort of real negative way. It's actually an interesting way to kind of progress and get to places, but at the same time, if you are looking for something where you do endlessly just sort of explore space, it has that, but it also doesn't really have that, as you are more kind of bopping from place to place. And you know what? I'm absolutely fine with that. And I know we're just kind of getting started, but there really is quite a lot for me to talk about and quite a lot for me to go over. As, like I said, I really did love this experience, and I think I'm going to continue to love this experience for a long time going forward, because this game is just absolutely stuffed with things to do. And I'm going to try to keep things as spoiler-free as possible, but I do really have to make the note that I think your experience really starts once you finish the main game. A lot of other elements will not be gone over by other people, in regards to reviews, but I really, really do feel that, in my personal opinion, in regards to looking at this experience, you really should rush the main narrative to get to the new Game Plus experience that I currently am in. It sounds weird, and if I actually talk about it too in depth, it does ruin story elements, because there is a concept of revamping and re-going through the circles of life and time and space and the unity beyond. I know that sounds cryptic, but I'm hoping it is, so that it doesn't spoil things for you, because it is an experience that you should absolutely enjoy spoiler-free to the best of your ability. Because it really is just a wondrous game. Like, it is gorgeous, it is expansive. There's an element of film grain. There are some graphical settings you can kind of adjust. There's a photo mode, which is kind of cool. But yeah, saving wise, it's just like the checkpoints. Sometimes they're good, and sometimes but there's depth of field, there's motion blur you can adjust, film grain intensity. Some people like the film grain off. You might notice a little bit more of the FSR at play. I think the film grain actually kind of masks that a little bit. But yeah, we're up in space, and we're going to go and do a very simple mission. We're going to go and shoot some pirates. And then we're going to go and explore like a facility and shoot some pirates or something in that facility, while continuing to talk about the experience. But yeah, when you get to the New Game Plus, and the main story is probably at least 20 hours long, depending on how skilled you are or if you're trying to jump through stuff, and you're collecting artifacts and you're trying to figure out what's happening. At the beginning, I opened up with us being at this place called Constellation. Constellation is who you end up working for. A simple miner with a backstory that you choose, with traits and everything like that, and I'll dig into the traits a little bit more later on. But it really is an experience that you craft and change as you go about exploring and seeing the over 1,000 planets that are present here. And yes, there are actually over 1,000 planets. It really is that utterly ridiculous. And all these planets, you can land on them and you can explore them. And I know it might sound weird, or some may say, oh, it's limited, you can't really, there's like boxes that cut things off. Well, they're actually really, you could back out from your hexagonal square, and the squares are quite long, or large and long, actually. And you know what, they could use vehicles for traveling. I think that would be very helpful on the planet surfaces, like a dune buggy or something would be amazing and very helpful. But you know what, they are large, and they are big, and you can leave the planet, and you can come back to a different tile and explore another generated area. So you can kind of technically explore whole planets, and they really are massive. And they're not just like empty planets. I mean, some of them are moons. But a lot of them have structures and things you can do and resources you can collect and different types of adventures you can go on. Like, you'll never know what's going to happen when you're playing this game. For example, I went to a pit stop diner in this small Hope Town place, or New Hope, or something like that. Sorry, you visit a lot of cities. There's some large cities, and there's some smaller ones you visit. But you go there, and you talk to someone. It's like, hey, is there any gossip? And from that point on, you end up with a tip. And from there, I did a couple-hour mission, where I got to meet some cool historical figures in time. But it's really, this is a game where the more you spend time exploring and seeing things, the more you get out of it. And that's wrapping back to the point I was making about wanting to finish the core game. Because once you get to the secondary level, you get a really cool ship, you get some cool items, and you get some new dialogue choices. But on top of that, you also get an element that really does go beyond, and that is like these extra skill things. Now, you can go further, and there will be some extra stuff that happens on top of that. But for me, the one New Game Plus is enough, and it allows me to explore the world in different ways. And I'll also mention that with the New Game Plus, on top of that, locate the Crimson, isn't that where we are right now? It's the Crimson Fleet. Anyways, on top of that, you really do kind of get a sense of freedom. Like, you can choose, do you want to redo the story, or do you want to skip it? And it's just, like, the biggest issue, though, in regards to, it's not locking onto the ship, which is kind of bothering me. The biggest issue with restarting the New Game Plus is that, essentially, you know, you lose the stuff you had. So if you customize your dream home, which is a trait, we'll talk about that later on, you know, you lose access to that. And, like, everything gets reset. All the items you have, everything like that is gone. And that's why I'm saying you should get to New Game Plus, finish it, and go forward, and then the real fun begins, in my opinion, at that point, once you get through the New Game Plus. You can choose to explore, you can choose to do stuff, but if you do go beyond through the Unity, which is, you know, kind of the planned element, that is where really the game kind of, to me, begins in its fullest, where you are free to explore, you are free to do stuff, you are free to see things and really go at it in interesting ways, and you'll have such a mastering of the game at that point. that you will feel that sense of freedom and that extra sense of adventure. And you know what? You really, seriously, play it however you want, but I just want to give really fair warning, because I spent time customizing, like, my dream home and everything like that, and then, I have to, like, restart, and it's frustrating. But, and that's one element of the game, which I find a little weird, is that it's, like, it's so focused on you doing what you want, and then you're kind of restarting with nothing. It almost feels like you're punishing the player a little bit. And you know what? Honestly, there might be some bugs, there might be some issues here, but you're going to completely overlook all of those as you continue to explore. And I've been doing lengthy, streams and plays of this game. And I kind of think of it where every day is like a new adventure now that I'm in the New Game Plus. I don't have the shackles of a story, I don't have anything I need to do. And I never know what's going to happen. I ran into a tour bus one time, and I answered questions for the people on the tour bus. Or I ended up on some weird multi-hour little story thing, or there is some laughs to be had, or weird experiences. Like, it's constantly different. And every time I go to play this game, I know something fresh is going to happen. I know there's different places to explore, new moons, new planets, new enemies to kill, new wildlife to come across, new situations. And there's, again, it's common. It's not constant, but it is common, the crashes. So there you go on that regard. But we'll continue talking along as it, does this load up and stuff like that. But the game is really beautiful. I loved the main narrative. There was a couple surprising decision points that I think will kind of shock some folks as they come up, but it all makes sense in the grand scheme of things and actually is really surprising. And then the sense of mystery you get as you do come across certain characters and whatnot is fantastic. And there you can see I've put a good amount of time into the game, I think. And I'll probably put in tens of days more probably over time on this one save. And I could make like another character, or I could, reach Unity. Like, there's so much that this game has, and there's so much that this game does. It really is genuinely amazing, the scope of this experience. It really, really is. And I do want to dive into a bit more of the story stuff. So you do make some choices. You do get a full suite of role-playing options. Like, you make your character, and the character customization is genuinely impressively in depth. I do wish there was more, like, hair designs, I think would be kind of cool. But yeah, you really can customize your character in really interesting ways, and it feels personalized. And if you got one of the right names, Vasco the robot will actually say your name, which is kind of cool. But you meet these characters, and you interact with them, and you go on their stories and their adventures and their missions, and you craft your own tale in the cosmos. You are just a miner with a bit of a backstory that you set up. I chose to be a diplomat for my backstory that ended up as a miner. And then you choose traits. So I chose a trait where you get a dream house, but you have to pay off your mortgage, which is why it's annoying again when it resets. But, I paid off the mortgage. I also have supportive parents, so you go and you can, like, interact with your parents. And I also have, like, the world's greatest fan or whatever. I think we left him behind, though, because I got a special historical figure on my ship, so I figured that was, a little bit more interesting than the overly supportive and creepy fan, like #1 fan. But, it really is up to you and how you craft things and how you do stuff. And you manage your ship, and you can buy multiple ships, or you can make your own ship. And there is an impressive, and I mean impressive, quantity of ways to, like, make your own ship. Like, you really can go wild. And with your dream home, it is actually like a fully living in space. So if you played something like Fallout 4, for example, it's like the Outpost building, which you can do here too. You can do the Outpost building as well, but like on intense steroids that goes well beyond anything I think you would really anticipate or expect. And that to me is crazy, because I love the collection of succulents apparently in this game. But like, I just love that you can personalize your space and make whatever sort of crazy thing you want. So you get like a dream home, and you can buy, there's like some other real estate and stuff too if you'd like. but you can really personalize it. And then there's the outposts too, so you can send people to go work on these outposts. So you could have like several different outposts. On Earth. Earth is a bit damaged in this world, which is a bit disappointing because I like the idea of, Earth being a cool place you could visit, but it's not really quite like that. And I set up like a New Canada outpost, and you can build buildings and habitats. And then there's research stations where you can go beyond. This is your scanner, so your scanner kind of tells you where resources are, where there's like things you can go do. Like I'm fighting the pirates here for a mission, but there's a cave over there that I could go and explore. Or there's some sort of unknown structure that way. And it's like, I can just go there. Like, I don't have to sit where I am. Like, I literally can just leave and go and explore that area if I want to. It's complete freedom. Like, there's main hubs you can visit. Like, New Atlantis is one of the main spaces. Wow, I just got obliterated by that character. There's New Atlantis you can visit, and it's this huge city, but you can just leave. Like, you just leave the city, and there's, like, stuff to do on the planet. And the planet biomes are, like, different, too, depending on the planet, right? Like, if you are... I wish I would have had a checkpoint where I was, like, opening... That's kind of what I'm mentioning for checkpoints. It can be really, really annoying where you can miss out on a ton of stuff and have to, like, redo whole dialogues and stuff. Like, sometimes the checkpoints are perfect, and other times they're just really, really infuriating to a high degree that I am quite bothered by them. Especially when you've got, like, crashes going on occasionally. It's just like, ugh. But, yeah, it is kind of amazing, just the sense of freedom and the scope of action within this game. Like, you literally can just kind of do whatever you want, wherever you want to do it. And that is crazy. Like, just think of the amount of things we can do on this planet. But, like, we can do that across over, like, 1,000 planets. It really doesn't limit you. And the game is just filled with crazy physics and adventures you can go on. And to me, again, that's the whole point of getting to that end game quickly, is the sense that, like, hey, now I can really feel unshackled and fully free to experience this universe however I want. And that, to me, is truly, truly quite exciting. Now, obviously, you might have noticed that the AI isn't, like, the brightest. It really does kind of usually sit there and just kind of let you wail on it a bit. I mean, some of the enemies, they do more damage, but they're not really, like, super clever, Like, some of them take cover and some of them run away. That guy is... that is a really scary pirate enemy that I am kind of dealing with here. I'm trying to show off some of the different guns, but this person is a bit of a problem. They absolutely just, like, vaporize me when they actually shoot at me. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a distance shot because this guy is kind of annoying. But when I say it's really difficult, I don't know. I mean, you get to kind of choose how difficult or how intensive you want things to be. That really is up to you. And I am really hoping that down the line we see some sort of console mod support, like with other Bethesda titles. I don't know what's going on in that regard, but it would be really great to have that kind of support, because I think that really would make this game just even more ultimate than it already is. But this is genuinely, like I said, and like I said a lot while playing it, one of the most absolutely fascinating and interesting games I've ever played. Like, there really isn't anything quite like this out there. And when I was younger, I always kind of sat there and was like, okay, so where can video games go? And I always loved the idea of a space game where you could go around and you could explore the cosmos and you could do whatever you wanted, find new planets, see new things. And we've had some games kind of attempt that over the years, but I don't think any of them have actually reached the level of role-playing excitement and discovery that this game actually does provide. And I know you might sit there and be like, oh, I want to do this or that in space, or I want to have more of a sense of exploration in space. And you know what? That's fine. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's near perfect. I do, obviously see some issues here or there, and I know some folks might have expected a sort of thing where you really do like travel, you really do explore, because it is a little bit more handheld. Like space is there, but it is going from point A to point B. And, you know, your exploration is when you get somewhere and you go off the beaten path and you find something new. And did Canada win the Space Wars? There's an awful lot of Canadian food just literally everywhere, and I'm really confused if that is just because Canada, like, if I'm from Canada and that's why it's showing that or what. But it's kind of weird. But, you know, it's 2030, and humanity has reached the stars. And you get to see that, and you get to experience that sort of wonder. Something that, you know, in your life you probably likely never will get to see is actual, like, you know, space travel to this sort of degree. So it's neat that I get to live out that sort of fantasy of, you know, space exploration within this game. It really does fit that desire, and it just allows me to really go out and go beyond and see all kinds of crazy exciting things and do whatever I want. Ship battles, yes. Home editing, go ahead. Explore planets for hours, why not? Visit places like the moon and hop around in low gravity, go ahead. Fly about on a planet, do whatever you want. Like, the game really does not limit you in any way. And it's beautiful. It really is quite a lovely looking game. I even think that the character animations and stuff are just well beyond the scope of what we've seen with previous Bethesda titles over the years. I genuinely am impressed by that. Like, sometimes there's weird kind of bug things, but, you know, for the most part, I do actually really love what they've done with, like, the animation work and stuff on the characters, and just the fidelity quality of the characters is well beyond. Like, this is, you know, probably the single most important title that Xbox has had in, like, a decade. I'd say, like, this really is the big game for them, and it absolutely does deliver in almost every single way that I sort of desired. Like, this has just been so fun, and I know that I'm just kind of getting started, which is the most exciting thing. Like, I would have really loved to have this review ready, because it's, you know, it's something like this is a game I'm actually quite passionate about. I've looked forward to it for a long time. And to have it deliver in such interesting ways is, to me, very interesting, because it's like, you know, there's, you know, it's got some quirks, it's got some weird stuff to it, but, like, the things you get to do and the things you get to see in it are just absolutely miraculous. Like, you know, you can go to, like, different planets, and there's, like, cyberpunk planets with tons of people on the streets and weird hidden things you can do and people you can talk to and people you can persuade and people you can barter with. And then it's got all these in-depth skill trees that you go through where you're kind of, like, improving your character almost infinitely as you continue to explore. And then there's all the crafting and the crafting stations and the outposts and the building. But, like, seriously, like, we look here at the skill tree, and it's like I'm barely even, like, lightly digging into it. And there's so much stuff, and each of these you level. So it's like, you know, you can see the shiny ones. You know, I can have more of a reduced damage when I get more skill points. And there's 4 levels, so each of these has 4 levels to it. And you get things like better outpost building. And then you can get different types of ships, and you can manage your crew from your ships. And your ships can do different levels of, like, distance flying. And again, over 1,000 planets. Like, really, we've explored a few places in this review, but, like, look at all these star systems. Like, these all have their own selection of planets that you can visit and you can dive into. Like, it's insane what they actually have in this game. It really is just absolutely massive. It's so impressive. And it feels kind of like when I was playing Flight Simulator, the most recent one, for the, you know, the first time, and I'm like, holy, it's the whole world. But here it's like, holy, it's literally the whole universe. And it's a work in progress, guys. But, like, I literally can build, like, whatever I want here. Like, it's like The Sims in space, which is crazy. I had to drop all this stuff off because it was taking too much inventory. But, like, I can build, like, all these different posters, and as you research new stuff, you can build more things. And you really can, like, lift and pick stuff up however you want and place things in weird ways. It's just, it's incredible what they've achieved with this game. It absolutely is amazing. It's one of the coolest, craziest games I have ever played in my entire life. It is well worth the journey, it is well worth the adventure, and hey, you know, there's some issues here or there, but I think that's a little bit of the Bethesda charm, but I think they nailed this one, and it's something I'm just going to keep playing and playing and playing and have a lovely time with, because it's just awesome. Also, quickly, the companion system is really quite cool, but I do maybe wish that was a bit more in-depth with more companion-type missions and whatnot, but it's great to have somebody battling with you, and I think they're a fun little addition to the experience.